Welcome back to the King Films College Football Playoff Prediction Show, and boy do we have a lot to go over today with the first college football playoff rankings coming out. I will be comparing them to my own rankings and seeing how they stack up. And finally, we will be looking at the New Year's 6 bowl predictions. But before we get started, I want to urge you guys to consider subscribing to the channel as it really helps us out. And let's get right into it with the bottom 10 spots on both rankings. And starting with the college football playoff rankings, we've got Pittsburgh at 25. I honor this pick, although I did not have them in my own rankings. Then they've got San Diego State. We both agree on that. They've got Fresno State. I understand that pick, as Fresno State obviously beat UCLA, played close with Oregon, and obviously got the win over San Diego State last week. That being said, they do have the 2 losses, one being to Hawaii, so I understand the College Football Playoff Committee putting Fresno State there at 23, and overall the Mountain West is a very strong conference. That's what we learned there. Some teams that we do not see in the whole of the college football playoff rankings are Houston, who I have at number 18, UTSA, who I have at number 19, and SMU, who I did not rank, but they were very close to being ranked. In addition, you also don't see Louisiana Lafayette, who the AP poll has decided to rank. So just keep that in mind going forward, that the CFP does not necessarily like those group of 5 teams besides these Mountain West ones here at the bottom. Then we've got number 22, Iowa. I'm fine with that pick. I had them a bit higher. Number 21, Wisconsin. That seems like a good pick. They've got 3 losses, all the good teams. And they have a couple key wins on their schedule. But this number 20 pick in Minnesota really baffles me. Obviously, they have their loss to Ohio State, which they played them pretty close. I don't think Ohio State was as good in that game as they are now. But the committee used the eye test and determined that Minnesota's that good. But they have a perplexing loss to Bowling Green that the committee's just going to let go. And Minnesota hasn't really played anyone either. Not that that's a requirement, but Minnesota has wins over Maryland and similar teams in the Big Ten. They haven't really beat any of the good teams, and none of them that are ranked. I think that Minnesota is highly overrated here, and I think that they will probably lose going forward to knock themselves out of the rankings, so everything will find its level. But I think that the committee is taking a very interesting approach here, considering that a couple years ago when Minnesota was undefeated, they were only a couple spots higher. So I think the committee is out of their mind with this pick. But let's move to number 19, where we've got NC State. I actually did not decide to rank them, but I think they're a very good team. Moving on to 18, they have Kentucky. I also decided not to rank Kentucky. I'm not really sure why they're ranked, honestly. They haven't really beaten anyone. Obviously, their good win is against Florida. They beat LSU. But besides that, they haven't really beaten anyone, and they've just lost to Mississippi State and Georgia in not particularly close fashion. I'm not really sure why Kentucky is ranked, but, Mississippi State just beat them, so at least they're honoring the head-to-head here with that matchup. Same thing in the Fresno State, San Diego State. So that points a little bit going forward. And then they have Ole Miss at 16. I'm completely fine with that pick. I had them at 17 myself. Let's move into the top 15. We both agree on BYU there. That is solid. Texas A&M, they've got at 14. I'm fine with that. A couple spots different from my 11. Then they've got Auburn at 13. We both agree there. And then they've got Notre Dame at number 10. I have them at 12. And then let's talk about Baylor and Oklahoma State, because I figured that Oklahoma State would be put above Baylor, as they like to clump these teams that have played head-to-head. But I think they're undervaluing the Big 12 here. You see Oklahoma at number 8 with the undefeated record. Obviously, I'm not going to stick up for Oklahoma, but I think that at least Oklahoma State and Baylor should be kept to that 8 and 9 spot that I have them in, because they have some pretty good resumes themselves. Obviously, Oklahoma State has the win against Baylor, as well as a good win at Boise State. And of course, Texas is a better team than you think. So I would think that Oklahoma State would be valued a bit more after their only losses to a good Iowa State team. But I guess the committee does not agree, and obviously Baylor would be just below them, fair enough. But Baylor has a great win over BYU as well. So, I'm not too disappointed with this placing, but I think that the committee it's an overall theme here, has underrated the Big 12, as these are their 3 ranked teams, and as you can see, they're lower than I would have had them. But again, I'm not going to stick up for Oklahoma, so we won't even talk about them. 10, we already went over Notre Dame. Number 9, they've got Wake Forest. So this is actually a wake-up call for me because, Wake Forest, they're a good team and all, but I had them more in line with that 14 spot where we saw that Minnesota team that I already mentioned a few years ago because they haven't really played anyone, as their best wins are a close win at Syracuse, and then they've beat Louisville, so I'm not really sure what the committee is thinking, but the AP poll did something similar, putting Wake Forest at 8. I'm fine with it, but I think, if you're going to punish Oklahoma for the close wins, which Wake Forest also has the close wins, at least honor Oklahoma's better strength of schedule by a long shot. But I just don't know what the committee's doing here with Wake Forest at 9, but I guess we'll have to live with it. And if Cincinnati can't make it at 6, then Wake Forest definitely can't make it at 9 here, even if they win out, just due to the down nature of the ACC. Next up, Michigan is number 7. I'm fine with that. I have them a little lower, but that's besides the point. And let's move into the top 6. So I'll just go first with my top 6. You guys may have already seen it in the community post, but I had Michigan State at 2. Georgia at 1, obviously, Alabama at 3, Cincy at 4, and then Oklahoma, I got wrong, at number 5, and then number 6, Oregon and Ohio State. That's all good and fine. So let's look at the college football playoff top 6, and of course we've got Cincinnati at number 6. So that's what everyone's been talking about, and many are saying that Cincinnati doesn't really have a path to the playoff, and that may be true, but I tend to value the fact that they have that game against SMU coming up, and obviously Michigan State or Ohio State, one of the teams will suffer a loss, so that will knock one of them out, hopefully. And then Cincinnati will also play probably a Houston in the conference championship game, so those are 2 quality wins that I think could propel this Cincinnati team up. In my eyes, they have a win in their in scenario, but it's not necessarily the case the way the committee's looking at it right now. 5, you've got Ohio State, and then 4, Oregon. It's nice that the committee decided to be consistent with how they are managing these head-to-head matchups. Number 3, Michigan State. I had them at number 2, and then Alabama is at number 2. Obviously, they've got 2 nice wins over Ole Miss and then Mississippi State here. The 3-loss Mississippi State, that is. But I think Michigan State should probably be above them. Obviously, they don't have the loss, and Michigan State's only real win is over Michigan last week. So their only win besides that is really that Miami game. But the absence of a loss here, I think, should count for something. Obviously, Alabama may or may not have looked better against Miami, so it's understandable from the committee's point of view. And I won't harp on that too much, but I think that this is a big statement by the CFP committee because they said that this was an easy decision for Alabama at 2, and if they lose narrowly to Georgia in overtime, all the ESPN and ABC analysts said that it would just be clear cut that Alabama's not in the top 4, but I don't know that that's the case since Georgia is just so far above every other team, and I didn't really think that Alabama was with them, but apparently the College Football Playoff Committee does. So number 1, of course, you've got Georgia there. And let's hop right into the New Year's 6 bowl predictions. Obviously, you've got those 2 matchups. I swapped Georgia and Alabama this week, so Georgia will be playing closer to home in the Orange Bowl against a West Coast Oregon team, so that is a brutal traveling matchup. And then you've got the Cotton Bowl, which is more neutral site there. Moving on to the games that I actually had to fill in here, we've got Ohio State against Utah, I guess, in the Rose Bowl game. Obviously, Utah is the only team that could win out because the other team that I would put in here is maybe Oregon State, and obviously they're going to have to lose to Oregon for this playoff scenario to be true. Obviously, Utah also would lose to Oregon, but that's a good loss, and I already had Utah in my top 25 right now, even though the committee doesn't. It's unclear, but I'm assuming that Utah would be the team in the Rose Bowl. Peach Bowl, we've got Wake Forest against Notre Dame. And then in the Sugar Bowl, we've got Auburn against Oklahoma and a great game there. And then the Fiesta Bowl, Cincinnati earns the highest remaining team in a non-contract game in Michigan there. So I think those are all great matchups. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and comment your predictions below and your thoughts on these first college football playoff rankings. Thank you for watching.